Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review for you, as is usual. Continuing on with my series of German beer reviews today, and I'm going to do another one from Heidelberg this time. As I've mentioned in my numerous videos from Heidelberg beer already, there's 4 breweries in Heidelberg. The Heidelberger brewery, which is the one that brews for the national scale. This stuff goes all over the country. Then in Ziegelhausen, arguably that's its own village or a district of Heidelberg, there's the Klosterhof brewery, which is attached to the Neuberg monastery. And then in the Altstadt of Heidelberg, we have 2 little brew pubs, one called Vetter and one called the Vetter Brauhaus Heidelberg. But today we're going to have a little look at the Vetter brewery and have a little look at their Helles beer. So I'm quite interested to actually review this one for you. This is one that I've drank on numerous occasions actually in the brew pub. A really nice little place to go and have a beer, and the Helles beer is actually a style that's kind of grown on me since I've been over here in Germany in Heidelberg. So quite looking forward to making the review for this one for you. But as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll take you through the history of the brewery, tell you a little bit about that, but as I always say, if you are simply just interested in the tasting of this beer, then feel free to go on towards the latter part of the video and you will catch that particular segment. But anyway, the full name of this brewery is Vetter Heidelberger Brauhaus, and it's actually the oldest brew pub, if you like, in Heidelberg, and it was founded back in 1987 by Klaus Peter Vetter, and he had always been self-employed, and his family actually owned a specialist carpet cleaning business, and apparently many of the local businesses and historic venues in Heidelberg used to employ the company to clean their precious oriental rugs and things like that. If you know anything about Heidelberg, you'll know it's a very historic town with the castle up on the hill and numerous old historic buildings, both attached to the university and sort of independently and things like that. A really beautiful place, I have to say. But Klaus had made a hobby from brewing beer, and he was actually a regular visitor to the Andex monastery in Bavaria, in addition to Oktoberfest and many other small brew pubs throughout Germany. And from this passion he had the idea to create his own craft brewery, but with a lot of help from his family, his dream of opening a brewery was transformed into a reality. But the brew pub here is actually located in the heart of the old town in Heidelberg on Steingasse, which leads from Hauptstrasse, the main shopping street, apparently one of the longest in Europe, and this street, Steingasse, leads you down to the old bridge which you see in all the sort of touristy photos of Heidelberg, if you like, and you'll find this street just behind the big church which is called the Church of the Holy Spirit. And apparently this location had been a restaurant for a number of years before being taken over by the Vetter family, and then, as I mentioned earlier, the brew pub opened in 1987, which made it the first brew pub to open up in Heidelberg. And now the brew pub is a popular venue with students and locals, and apparently a number of local and national celebrities, if you like, have visited this brewery. But like many brew pubs, they also serve the traditional German food, and they offer various set menus and seminars and things like that about brewing techniques and also the history of the city. So they're quite cool in that sense. They're very proud of their Heidelberg heritage. But the brew house itself apparently has a 10 hectoliter volume and is built by Caspar Schulz in Bamberg, Germany, of course a very famous city for beer in its own right. And their head brewer is Eric Rosen, who is held in very high regard locally apparently, and he's actually meant to be a very, very nice guy. I didn't get to meet him yet, but he's apparently in the brew pub quite often, so hopefully at some point I can meet him. But at some point since the opening of the brewery passed to Michael Vetter, who is the nephew of the founder Klaus, and Klaus's son apparently is still in the business though as the managing director, so it's still very much a family operation. But the brewery also celebrated their 25th anniversary in 2012 and did some renovation work on the brew pub to actually mark the occasion of this. So that's the brief history of the brewery for you there, and I'll just tell you a little bit about the other beers as well. In their year-round range they have the Helles beer, the Dunkelhefeweizen and the Vetter Dry. And this was actually first produced on New Year's Eve in 1987, and it was the world's strongest beer for a period of time at 11%, and it was actually in the Guinness World Records in 1994, and it was produced by then brewmaster Rudolf Kaspar as a bet with Mr. Vetter, in which he'd said that he could produce the world's strongest beer, and he did it, and his boss didn't think he could do it, so they did it and produced the world's strongest beer. It's in the record books in 1994, and I have a bottle of it that I'll review for you very soon, in fact. But in their seasonal range as well, they have the Dunkelhefeweizen and the Naturtrüb-Hefeweizen. They have the Märzenbier, the Maibock, and the Weihnachtsbock Frische. The fresh Christmas beer, if you like. And I was a bit disappointed I never got to review that one for you when I just arrived. And of course, all of their beers are brewed in accordance with the Reinheitsgebot. But let's get on to the tasting of this guy. As I say, the Helles beer is one that's really, the style has really grown on me since I've been in Germany, and I really enjoy it. This guy is a 4.5% Helles beer, so let's get it open and get on with the tasting here. And that's a good pop on that one. You can see a nice little bit of smoke on the opening there. I'll just get this guy into the glass. It's actually great just to do these in the evening, then you've got a nice sort of 2 pints of beer or a litre of beer just to enjoy and wind down in the night. But as you can see, it looks like a typical Helles beer. Nice big head on it, as the Germans like. I'll just let that calm down a little bit and let you have a better look at it. I never let you have a look at the bottle actually, so I'll bring that up there. You can see the sort of Heidelberg buildings, and you can see the church on it here just as I'll bring this up and let you have a look at it. You can see, I think this is the Church of the Holy Spirit down here. This is the symbol of the brewery here in the middle part there, and you can see the little brewing implements in this bit down here as well. And that's one of the other churches that you'll find on the back street. I'm not sure what that guy's name is, and the top on this one is just plain. Some of these have little engravings and stuff like that, but it's a nice, definitely quite a nice sort of label on this guy here. But as you can see, the head is starting to die down a little bit. You can see it's a nice sort of hazy golden colour, just a very slight haze. You can see through it to some degree. There's a lot of carbonation kind of bubbling up on this one. It's a frothy white head with about 2 fingers. It's got more bumpy since I've left it there. I'll just put a little bit more in and then I'll actually taste the thing for you. Struggling to get that open there. But yeah, that's how a German beer should look like. The nice rounded head on the top with the nice sort of fluffy head just coming out of the bottle like this. A really attractive looking beer. As I mentioned, it's an almost transparent Helles. It's got a nice little bit of haze to it, a lot of carbonation there, 2 finger white frothy head. I think that's going to leave some nice lacing in the glass. But let's get on and check the aroma of this guy. It's a very sort of grassy smelling beer, but when you take a sort of deeper smell of this guy, you're picking up the sort of bready character to it. But on first instinct, if you like, you're definitely getting a nice sort of herbal and grassy hop character to it. And as I say, the underlying bready character is when you take a sort of deeper smell of it, if you like. But it's a sort of definitely a very sort of grassy and herbal hoppy character that's coming off this guy at the start, and you can pick up just a little hint of cereal with it as well, in my opinion. Yeah, definitely, I sniffed a little bit of it up there, but you can pick up really is a sort of quite pungent, grassy and herbal hoppy character. I've never quite smelt a Helles that has this sort of pungent hop in it in my experience. It's a really quite unique aroma, this guy. But let's get on with the tasting. Opens up with the bread and dough. It's the opposite way from the aroma. The first thing that comes and hits you is the bread and doughy malt base. Yeah, definitely a little bit of a spicy, malty bread and dough base with this guy. It has just a little underlying bit of cereal spice in there, maybe a little bit of rye actually. I'm not quite certain exactly what spice, but there's definitely an element of cereal to it. But that's the first thing that comes out of this one. It's actually, if you take it in little small gulps, that cereal spice is sort of underlying throughout the whole beer. But yeah, you're getting, as I say, you're getting that nice bready and doughy base with the cereal spice underlying in there. And then once that subsides, you're actually moving more into the sort of herbal and grassy hoppy character of the beer. And there is just a little bit of sort of citrus in there, I would say. But yeah, that herbal and grassy character is really prominent in the second half of the beer. And it almost borders on aromatic. It has a little bit of an English paleo character to it, this guy actually, although it is a Helles beer, and it's the sort of difference in the malt base really that makes it a Helles beer rather than a rather than a sort of than an English pale ale. You get a more of a biscuity malt base with the Helles beers, in my opinion. And it's where the dough comes in. The dough and the bread mixes well together and gives the impression of biscuit, but you get used to it and you can pick it up, so you can notice the difference in these little things when you've had quite a few of the Helles beers. But yeah, a really nice bready, doughy, spicy malt base on the opening with this guy. The spice, as I say, remains with you through the taste of the beer. Then you get the sort of herbal and aromatic, grassy hop character coming out, and there is a nice little bit of citric sweetness to that. The aftertaste is definitely the sort of spicy bread and just a little bit of the grassiness on the sort of top of the tongue, I would say. But this is a really nice Helles, and as I mentioned, it's a style of beer that has really grown on me since being in Germany. You can see in the glass as well, it's just leaving some nice lacing for you there, and the head basically has gone down to a very thin layer, as you can see on the video. But in terms of the mouthfeel of this guy, I would be tempted to describe it more as a mid-bodied beer than a light-bodied beer. At the same time, it's quite wet, but it does have a little bit of dry character to it just on the finish. When you get into the hoppy part of it, the hops have a nice little bit of dry character, and it makes it quite fresh actually. The carbonation, I would say, is it's sort of a mid-carbonated beer. It's not too fizzy, but it does have a nice little bit of attack. They hit it just right with this guy. But yeah, it's a very fresh tasting beer, in fact. And if you serve this at room temperature, which I've had in the brew pub, maybe in the bread base you can actually pick up a little bit of caramel. But I think this beer is better slightly chilled. It makes it more refreshing, gives it a nice fresh taste, and it brings out the nice hoppy character at the end of the beer a little bit better, in my opinion. But this one is a very fresh and refreshing beer. This is a good one for just sitting and drinking in the summer. Buy a keg of this guy and go and sit down on the Neckar River and just watch the world go by. That's what you want to do with this beer. But as I say, light to mid-bodied, carbonation very sort of middle ground, very well done, and it's quite a wet mouthfeel, but at the same time the hoppy character, when you chill it, comes out a bit more and you get a nice little bit of dry feel, but at the same time a very refreshing beer, and it does have a very fresh feel to it. But I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. I've enjoyed this one, and like I say, overall this is a really nice Helles, and there are many good Helles beers throughout Germany, so check out the local beer if you are visiting Germany. The brewery website for the Vetter Brauhaus is in the video description there, so check it out if you are interested. Check out my other German beer reviews if you're particularly interested in German beer. But I hope you found this beer review informative. Thanks again for your support over my last 160 or so videos. It's much appreciated, and please let me know in the comment section if you do happen to have tried this beer yourself. Always interesting to hear other people's perspectives on it. But thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you soon with another beer review. Cheers.